We are learning about toxic masculinity. Today, I want to learn more about it. So, we are talking about toxic masculinity. For now, we will get into toxic femininity and toxic anything else. So, let's read it. Toxic masculinity involves. Wait, before we get into this, I'd like to talk about what I think toxic masculinity is. And I hate the word masculinity because I have trouble saying it over and over. So for me, it's I talked about it in the last stream or something. Certain traits which are considered to be masculine, right? This box of traits which is considered to be masculine, like being hairy or being angry or not showing emotions, not crying, being muscular, being strong, and punching people and shit like that, violent, and all the emotions which are considered to be manly, like that. Those traits, they are considered to be masculine. So those are the traits which are considered masculine. That's masculinity in a way. Now they can be or cannot be. That's I'll get into that in a sec. But these traits, which are considered to be masculine, these traits themselves aren't toxic necessarily. It's our perception on those traits. Like if we think that, let me, I can't hear myself. If we say that these traits are how a man is supposed to be, and a man cannot be anything else other than these traits, that's what toxic masculinity is. The perception we have for those traits. If someone like me, like I shave my body, if someone says that I'm not being manly because I shave my body, that's being toxic masculine, because we they said that shaving is a feminine trait, so man can't do it. That's toxic. Limiting ourselves to those traits of masculinity, that limiting part, it's toxic masculine or toxic behavior. So that's my perception of toxic masculinity and what it is. I don't know what it actually is, and we'll get into that. And I think similarly it goes for toxic femininity, but at the same time it's a bit different, because in my mind it's almost like toxic masculinity and toxic femininity are the same thing, but different gendered thing. But it's not. It's actually quite different from what I know. I guess shaving is like a good example. A man who shaves, a man who doesn't shave, and a woman who shaves. Okay, these are the traits for masculinity and femininity. So toxic masculinity will be a man is not supposed to shave. That's toxic masculinity. And for women, toxic femininity will not be not shaving. It will be a different thing. Toxic femininity, from what I know, it's more about women who use their feminine, being, or the femininity or the gender, to get advantages in society, like something like that. I heard that term in, oh wait, I heard that term in on some Facebook page or something, and I found it funny. Let me just see if I can find it real quick. Okay, so this, right? uh, right about now would be a good time to finally talk about toxic femininity, and it shows what's the name, Jada Pinkett and Will Smith, and Amber Heard and Johnny Depp. Now, first of all, I don't know much about these at all, but like I don't think this toxic femininity applies to this necessarily. Maybe this, yeah, but not really this. Like these two. So I'll get into that. But that's what made me realize that toxic femininity is not the same as toxic masculinity, because toxic femininity is not about limiting what a woman can be or cannot be, while toxic masculinity is what a man can be or cannot be. So maybe we'll talk about that as well in this stream. But yeah, this is something. And toxic, as I said, femininity, it's about a woman taking her gender and like getting advantages based on her gender, undue advantages, and using her gender to I don't know, get, as I said, advantages. So that's toxic femininity. And I don't really like that term, toxic femininity, because it's more of people with privilege who do that, and toxic masculinity is something that every man faces. and I mean it, every man does face toxic masculinity. Toxic femininity, not every woman faces that. And I'm not saying it's not important to talk about it, it is, but it's just the comparison between these two things, that in right now it's about time to talk about toxic femininity. It's a bit, I don't know, it feels like like an insult hating on women or some shit. But yeah, we'll get into that as well. So, toxic masculinity, as I said, let's get into that and let's read up what it actually is, and is my perception of it right? Toxic masculinity involves cultural pressures for men to behave in a certain way, and it's likely this affects all boys and men in some fashion. Yes. Toxic masculinity refers to the notion that some people's idea of manliness perpetuates domination, homophobia, aggression. Notion that some people's idea of manliness, yeah, this idea that men need to act tough and avoid showing all emotions can be harmful for the mental health, can have serious consequences for society, which is how it became known as toxic masculinity. So basically, if I put myself in this statement, if I'm avoiding showing emotions and it is harmful for my mental health and it can have serious consequences in the society, it can be, am I the toxic masculine person? Because that feels like, that doesn't sound very helpful, because if I am this person, um, stigmatizing me by saying I'm a toxic masculine person instead of helping me, as a guy, I'd rather have people be compassionate to me and help me understand myself better and help me change and not stigmatize it. But maybe it's not that I'm interpreting it wrong. There are definitions of toxic masculinity that appears in research as well as pop culture. Some researchers have come to agree that toxic masculinity has three core components. Okay, here we go. Toughness. This is the notion that men should be physically strong, emotionally callous, and behaviorally aggressive. Okay. Anti-femininity and anti-femininity, femininity. Isn't it anti-femininity? I guess not. Masculine, feminine, masculine, feminine. Yeah, it should be anti-femininity anyway. This involves the idea that men should reject anything that is considered to be feminine, such as showing emotions or accepting help. Wow, so you're saying being feminine means asking for help. Okay. That is, yeah, that is definitely a toxic trait to have. Power. This is the assumption that men must work to obtaining power and status, social and financial, so they can gain the respect of others. Yes, I do agree with these core statements. What is it? Three core components, yeah. So what I said about toxic traits, that's no, I guess it's not about that. What is it? So maybe we'll get into that in a sec. Toxic masculinity glorifies unhealthy habits. Is the notion that self-care is for women, and men should treat their bodies like machines by skimping on sleep, working out even when they're injured, and pushing themselves to their physical limits. More men control masculine norms are more likely to be engaging in risks such as heavy drinking, using tobacco, and avoiding vegetables. What? What? Okay, this is kind of funny. Okay. Mental health stigma. Dr. Massey also discourages men from getting mental health treatment. That is true. Depression, anxiety, substance abuse issues, and mental health problems may be viewed as weakness. Yes, that men are brought into masculinity have more of a negative attitude towards seeking mental health compared to those with flexible gender attitudes. Indeed, toxic masculinity may also stress that it's inappropriate for men to talk about their feelings. Yeah, avoiding conversation about the problems or emotions may increase feelings of isolation and loneliness. Me, no, not funny. This may increase feelings of loneliness. It may also reduce men's willingness to reach out and get help when they're experiencing a mental health issue. Asking for help, or not asking for help. It's inappropriate to talk about feelings, avoiding conversations about problems and stuff. That's toxic masculine. Yes, that is absolutely true. Although I have to point out, it is situational, which I guess I'm coming off of a bias in the beginning itself when I said that these are traits, and the traits aren't necessarily toxic. It's our perception towards them. Like here, it's not necessarily okay. So I'm trying to see if I am wrong about it, because this says it's inappropriate for men to toxic masculinity includes it's inappropriate for men to talk about their feelings, right? That's what it says. So wrong, it's inappropriate for men to talk about feelings. That's a trait. men have and which is considered to be toxic. Now, I would like to add that is it possible that it's much more subjective and contextual? Like, there are times in a man's life where they cannot talk about feelings, because if they talk about their feelings and if they are going through some shit, it means that people around that guy aren't really able to help them, and he won't be able to help, and he will just make it worse for everyone, and be what can we say, um, a kind of a burden on others. A guy can feel that, I'm as being a guy, I know that. So it's inappropriate for men to talk about their feelings. No, I mean, yeah, that is a wrong thing. Men should talk about their feelings, but there are just some times where you can't, because talking about feelings means being vulnerable, and vulnerability for men is extremely polarized. If you're being vulnerable with someone, you trust them with your life. If you're not being vulnerable with someone, you do not trust them. That's how it is, at least in my opinion. So if I'm being vulnerable with someone, it is because I trust them 100%. And if they break that trust, uh, I I become a toxic guy, because I stop opening up about my feelings. Now that is obviously true, that it's possible that that is like a BPD trait for me personally, where I see that both sides of it, that men should share their feelings, yes, but when they do and they feel rejected, or or people break their trust, or something like that, they kind of shut down. I understand that as well, because I am that person who shared my feelings with people, and sometimes it didn't work out, and I made it about myself, because that is also a bad thing. That's also a bad trait. Nothing to do with toxic masculinity. So, like, I understand that. That's why the first statement I have about a toxic masculinity is, like, these are traits which are extremely contextual, and it's not wrong to have, like, not sharing feelings with someone. That's completely fine, but limiting yourself to not sharing your feelings ever, that's toxic, is like how I come across at this topic. And that, like, my belief about that still holds up, and maybe it will change. I'm guessing not, but we'll see. Okay, race, ethnicity, and gender. A man's race and ethnicity may play a role in how he views masculinity, as well as how others perceive him. Yeah, as an Indian, I agree with that. In 2015, 85% of LGBT students reported being harassed over the gender expression, sexual orientation. Okay, non-commercial reported voice student and kids contribution who are LGBTQ plus. I have some, like, confusion about the LGBTQ plus community. Like 80% agreed, 20% just questions. That's it. An instance of sexual assault, for example, men who identify the most with masculine behaviors were less likely to stop the assault. Or that men would intervene in any conflict that brought their reputation and being traditional masculine might be compromised. What? Like, okay, but this doesn't make sense. Obviously, for men, like, for men who think like this, it doesn't make much sense to me. But I don't know. Men who identified with masculine behaviors were like less likely to stop the assault. Study found that men would intervene in any conflict if they thought their reputation as being traditionally masculine might be compromised. What the hell? Who thinks like that? Why would you think like that? Okay. Researchers found that when they stripped away stereotypes and cultural expectations, there weren't many differences in the basic behaviors between men and women. Yeah, absolutely. The participants' log diary entries of the activities showed that men enjoy caring for children just as much as women. Yes, that makes so much sense. It's not that because of the society and the man should be the working person in the house. Did people just assume that the man is not caring for the children? No, he's working, or he's expected to be working. And if, yeah, that yeah, makes sense. I agree with that. Differences in emotional displays between boys and girls are relatives are not always in a stereotype. For example, adolescent boys actually display few externalized anger than adolescent girls. What? Oh, we have the toxic femininity here, right? Itself. Okay, but before we get into that, okay, So, um, I still stand by what I said in the beginning. The traits itself aren't necessarily bad, they're extremely contextual and situational, which is why it's like the traits shouldn't be or stigmatized. But at the same time, there should be a bit of a like flexibility in a person's opinions about those traits. Like, is anger a good thing? Like, it's contextual. You can't really say yes or no if anger is hurting someone externally or internally, anyone. That's obviously bad. But anger, we like that in anger, the emotion in of itself isn't necessarily bad in my opinion. It's how it what can you say, uh, how it manifests in behaviors and situations. That's bad or good. So I still stand by what I said in the beginning of this video. I mean, I just read like one article on this. Obviously, if I read more, there are chances that I'll be corrected on this. But yeah, I stand corrected. Not corrected. I just like that wasn't an argument with anyone. What's with my hair? Come on. Toxic femininity. Okay. From the term itself, if we talk about toxic femininity, if we try to relate it with toxic masculinity, you like at least I feel like it would be about how a woman is expected to be. Like if a woman is expected to be like the house worker or someone like being sexy or meant to be objectified or almost not. I mean, that's not really feminine trait because yeah, I mean, no, it is actually. Women are expected to be beautiful and expected to put on makeups and there are many what do you call rules and regulations in certain workspaces where women have to be like well attired and shit. And obviously men are also supposed to be in uniforms, and but it's different from women where they're supposed to have certain hairstyle and shit like that, where they are meant to be appealing to others. And those are all feminine traits which are like toxic. Obviously the traits aren't toxic, as I said in about toxic masculinity. The traits are something that exists. It's contextual, and how our perception of those traits in certain manifestations of situations, that's toxic. So what is toxic femininity? That's what I want to say it is, but I know it's not. From what I've heard, it's, as I said, women who use their femininity to get advantages. That's toxic femininity from what I've read. It doesn't make any fucking sense. So let's read about toxic femininity. There we go. Toxic femininity is bottom that refers to rigid and repressive definition of womanhood, including pressures women face to restrict themselves to feminine traits. Yeah, that's what it is. So was I lied to? Because this is what I said. Toxic femininity refers to the adherence to gender binary in order to receive. Genders are non-binary, or gender like doesn't exist necessarily. But again, does that mean being a certain gender is wrong? No, you can be any gender. But if you that's the thing. That's this thing of they are supposed to be like this is how it's supposed to be. That's toxic behavior. You can be or you can not be. Saying you should be is when it's like toxic. Toxic femininity refers to the adherence to gender binary in order to receive conditional value in patriarchal societies. It is a concept that restricts women to being cooperative, passive, sexually submissive, gentle, and deriving their values from physical beauties while being pleasing to men. Yeah, absolutely. I was right. Toxic femininity posits that women are without agency and exist to be defined and judged of their value by male in their lives, such as father or husband. Yes, this is toxic femininity. Absolutely agreed. Again, the traits of being passive or sexually submissive or cooperative or gentle or even deriving values from physical beauty while being pleasing to men. These aren't the toxic traits, but limiting oneself to be just this because of what do you call it? Patriarchal society and traditions, okay? Repressive definitions, and just staying that because that's how you're supposed to be. That's toxic. You can be this, but you can be much more than just this. If toxic masculinity encourages violence and domination in order to uphold an unequal power dynamic, then toxic masculinity supports silence, acceptance of violence, and domination in order to survive. This sounds bad. You know, I'll say this because this doesn't sound good. I mean, it doesn't obviously, but also because, wait, because there are situations where women has to accept violence because of the societal pressure. Obviously, they shouldn't, but calling that toxic femininity, it's different because calling a guy a toxic masculine guy, like toxic masculine, it's much easier for me to think, at least, that it's easy for a guy to be called out and changed, but for a girl it's not, except especially in the pro-liberal political view and political ideology, where it's a choice, right? Like the hijab thing that happened, people should have the choice to wear hijab, but at the same time it's important to question, like, is it a toxic femininity that women are wearing hijab because that's what women are supposed to be, even if you can say faith and everything, but it's obviously kind of what you can say, brainwashing almost. So I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm saying it's a bit complicated and you can't really take any kind of stance around this topic. While toxic masculinity states that men should act tough, show emotions, and reject anything considered femme, toxic femininity pressures women to be quiet, nurturing, submissive, and attractive. Yeah, that's what I said. Womanhood is an instant defined in very shallow manner that objectifies, and yeah, that's what I said. I guess I was lied to when I thought that toxic femininity is where women uses the femininity to get ahead of, and like, I guess that's not the term. I was lied to. I apologize. I changed it. The logical explanation of what toxic femininity is, or at least what I thought it was, it is exactly that. It's not anything different. Wait a second. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Includes any thoughts, actions, or behaviors by women that benefit or defer others, usually males, at the expense of women's independence, agency, full range of emotions, and emotional and mental well-being. Okay, no. And no, I thought I was right about the thing I read about toxic femininity, but it's not. It's not like that. Okay. So the post, I mean, reading this much till now, I feel like maybe, just maybe, this post right here, is not really the correct way. Usually males at the expense of the woman's independence, agency, and full range of emotional and mental well-being. That's excuse me. That's toxic femininity. So this is technically not toxic femininity, because Amber Heard is not a submissive or like reluctant, and like she's the opposite of what a feminine woman is. So this is not toxic femininity. She's actually the opposite of that. Calling her toxic femininity is toxic femininity, because you're expecting a woman to be submissive and shit. Don't get me wrong, she's a piece of shit, yeah. But at the same time, whoever made this post completely misunderstand the word toxic femininity, and for a moment there, I also misunderstood it because of this post. Like even Jada Pinkett and like Will Smith, that shouldn't be here at all. I don't know a lot about these two people and these couple or whatever, but I know that they're somewhere in like open relationship and it's consensual, something like that. And yeah, I understand that it's sad and whatever, you feel sad for your hero and whatnot, but if there's consent, if they are in an open relationship and if there is a consent, it's not toxic femininity, it's not toxic masculinity. It's nothing. It's none of your business, right? Let them fucking live. So these two people being here, it's stupid, straight out. It doesn't make any sense to have them. And these two, Amber Heard and Johnny Depp, it's not toxic femininity here. Like, it's not about this. But let's read more. Maybe I'm still wrong. Maybe there is something to it. We'll see. Toxic masculinity and toxic femininity tell men and women that their worth, value, validity in men and women is conditional upon their adherence to these roles. These social constructs reinforce women's submissive behaviors and enable men claiming that violence is to be accepted. Fuck these people. Although violence is, should I say it? No. Maybe sometimes it's kind of important. What toxic femininity is not. This is important because uh, maybe I can talk about this post because of here. Oh, did I? Okay, what happened? No, nothing happened. Are we live? Yeah. Like a toxic masculinity, toxic femininity is a product of patriarchal society. These toxic notions of femininity further deny women agency or identity. That said, discussions of the term outside of academic spaces can verge on the anti-feminist side. Yes, they are used as reactionary argument against feminist discussions or toxic masculinity. Yes, some users of term toxic femininity spread harmful stereotypes of femininity while suggesting men as the primary victims of this. For example, the claim that women are naturally very emotional, manipulative, or gossipy. Okay, this inverted term is used to negate discourse on how power is gendered, seeking instead to place feminism as a cause of gender inequality. Holy shit! Okay. Because of this, scholars have suggested people consider what is toxic about some approaches to femininity versus using this term in an academic manipulative way. Most behaviors given as example of toxic femininity are actually examples of misogyny and internalized misogyny. Yes. 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 This right here, this is not toxic femininity. This is bad. Yes, okay, fine. But this is not toxic femininity. This person, whoever made this post, is a fucking sexist. And he is an anti-feminist. That's why this toxic femininity, I think this guy who made it, I'm going to say it's a guy. The guy who made this post, I think he is anti-feminist. Oh, I think he is anti-feminist and using the term toxic femininity. I think it is basically him trying to interpret the term toxic femininity as toxic feminism, like, which is a different thing. Maybe we'll watch or read about that as well. But toxic feminism, what the hell? Toxic feminism. What is the word? Feminist feminism. Toxic feminism is not the same as toxic femininity. This is not toxic femininity. Maybe toxic feminism. What the fuck is this word? Why can't I say it? Maybe toxic feminism, but not toxic femininity. This is just a, this is a misogynist talking about why feminism is bad by using one example. I was right. I wasn't, but I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to have my opinion corrected over here, or my perception. Pressure to abide by contradictory standards. Okay, toxic femininity is comprised of personal specific rules and regulations that are constantly in flux. Yes, for example, some may believe wearing heels to work is essential. Others stay away from drinking beer because it is masculine. Women who adhere to toxic femininity may be rewarded, and those who do not may be punished, which is dynamic enforced by those with power in order to maintain their power. There is no correct, blank, or exact way to do feminine expression of any personal intimate. I was right. I was right, wasn't I? I talked about this. I said that the traits themselves aren't bad. It's subjective, it's contextual, and people can be that. But limiting that, or saying this is how it's supposed to be, or doing those things, having those traits in one's life because of the traditional beliefs and the manipulation of the society from past patriarchal society, all that shit. That's bad, yes. But that doesn't change the fact that these traits are okay. I was fucking right. I feel so good. I feel so good. I was right. Okay. Sorry about that. I'm just happy. I'm just happy to be right. But I love this statement. There is no correct blanket or exact way to be feminine as well as masculine as expression of femininity or masculinity. Excuse me, what the hell is happening? Oof. Expressions of femininity and masculinity are personal, intimate, and not to be policed. Yes. So this is where the hijab thing also happens, that if it's a choice, it is a choice indeed. We need to ask the question, yes, if it is a personal choice or it is a manipulation, that is also important. But at the end of the day, it is still a choice. It's almost the argument. It's almost like the argument of toxic relationships as well. Like, toxic relationships are bad. No shit, Sherlock. They are bad. But if someone wants to be in a toxic relationship, if someone chooses that over and over and over, and is not acknowledging or recognizing that it's a bad thing, men being in relationship with women who are not good for them and who are using them for gold diggers, whatever, or women being in an abusive relationship, in a manipulative relationship, all those things, they are bad. But if they don't want to change, if they want to continue doing that, you can't force anyone to stop. You can help them understand it, you can show them perspectives, you can, maybe let them know that this is not the best way and you are being manipulated to and lied to and all that shit. But if they don't want to listen, if they want to continue living in a toxic relationship or whatever, you can't force them out of it. And it's a sad reality, because freedom of expression and being free to make one's choices, these are the consequences of that. People will choose bad. If it was free, where, like, if I'm free to make a choice that I'm gonna do drugs or some shit, like, I know it's bad for me, but that's, people still do it because there are some psychological problems, or people just want to try it, or whatever the reasoning may be. It's their personal choice, even if the choice is awful, bad, if it's not illegal, because being in a toxic relationship is not illegal. It's just morally bad. If it's not illegal, no one can force anyone out of it. So I guess that answers that. Grooming habits. For example, a 2016 study of 14,600 individuals in the workplace found that less attractive but well-groomed women earned more on average than women who were more attractive but less groomed. This means that women's grooming habits accounted for almost all the salary difference in the research pool, whereas the men in the study, that their grooming habits accounted for roughly half. What? Why is this? Oh, oh no, I don't want to sign. I don't have an account. Sir, okay. But is this talking about the gender thing? So I don't really know. Like, that's the truth for me about the inequality in pay and gender pay gap, because I've heard contradictory statements about them being like, yes, gender gap exists, or no, gender gap don't exist. I don't know is the truth for me. Like, I genuinely don't know. I don't think gender is a like a problem in the pay, because it doesn't make it's relative to how much of a like importance you are to the company, or what level you are on, like if you're a manager or assistant manager or a regional head or whatever. Like, that's what defines pay, not gender, from what I know at least. Because here it's talking about correlation, right? Individuals in the workplace found that less attractive but well-groomed women earned more, and women who were more attractive but less groomed didn't make as much. Like, it's correlating that if you are well-groomed and not that you know not that attractive and well-groomed, you will earn more. I don't think it's true, because for all we know, it's possible that these people who are less attractive and who put a like a label of who's attractive, who's not, but someone who's less attractive but is well groomed, they earn more. Is it possible that they have the money already, that's why they are well groomed, and people who are more attractive but not as groomed, they are not making as much because they are attractive but they don't have the money to grooming habits, like stuff like that, I guess. Because for guys, it's not the same. When they study, their grooming habits accounted for roughly half. So half of them who are like, I don't think this should be here, because it doesn't make any sense, and I'm still questioning it. Unless it's, wait, access to labor market rewards, right? If it is about labor market, I don't know what labor market is. It like stuff like, what do you call them? Like service industry, right? As a waitress or something like that. If that's the case, then we are talking about tips, I think. In which case, women would be paid more, because we live in a misogynist world. I don't know about this. I want to question it, but I don't want to get into that. But this doesn't make much sense. But the point over here is like grooming, like Women who are attractive, not attractive, but they are well groomed, they earn more. I don't know. I don't really understand this as much. In contrast, a 2018 study into the cosmetic use of women in the workplace found that makeup used for social night or negatively impacted the perception of a woman's leadership ability. What? Research theorized that this might be due to makeup enhancing traits that are important for relationships and having incompatible notion of social dominance in leadership. That definitely makes sense. What the hell? Why would you? Okay. Though they come to different conclusions, these studies highlight the paradox of female beauty, whereby women are shamed for seeking idealistic beauty standards while simultaneously judged for not prescribing the. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That's kind of ironical that this is like both. Like you can't do both. In the sense that rules don't matter as much as the insecurity that they provoke. Okay, it is their rigidity and contradiction that make women so desperate to keep up. In desperation, women become easier to control and exploit. Yeah, makes sense. I thought cosmetic use would be about like how women are expected to put makeup and stuff like that. That's what I thought it would be about, but it's not about that at all. Impact of toxic femininity. Here we go. Toxic femininity, therefore, is dangerous as it posits the what the hell happened to me? As it posits the subjugation of women as natural and essential for social approval. Indeed. For example, the pressure to be quiet, nurturing, submissive can lead to women falling victim to abuse, yes, or remaining in some unsafe conditions due to feeling duty bound to stay. Furthermore, these issues also go beyond the home. True. The mental the fight for women's equality as it seeks to maintain the toxic gender system in the place. Okay, so this kind of thing, employment thing, I guess the thing I talked about over here, grooming thing, like this kind of cleared that up that it's not just about earning money or something or like making more money, but it's more about getting that advantage of climbing the ladder, getting praise. Maybe that's what that grooming part was about, in which case yeah, I can see that happening. I can see that definitely. For guys, it's just what kind of work you do. Are you good at work? If you are, good. If you're not, no, you don't get a raise. But if a woman, is she good at work? Yeah, that's the second priority. First priority is she well groomed? So yeah, maybe that's what this was about, and I misunderstood it. Nevertheless, while toxic femininity may seem to be everywhere, there are many examples of embodied and authentic femininity. These vast and varied presentation of femininity steer clear of the rigid rules and center autonomy and individuality. Yep, being objectified, pigeonholed. What the hell is this word? That's the first word I have learned today. Assign a particular category, typically an over restrictive one. Is that even Ian McGregor? No, I don't know. What? I don't know who that is. And that looked like the hello there guy. Now, the two things, right? We talked about toxic masculinity and toxic femininity, and there's obviously more. I can talk about feminism, but let's not get into that in this video, in this stream, or this video if you're watching on YouTube. So the thing is, for me, the two things I'd like to say about femininity and masculinity as two things. I think media plays a big role for a guy or a man to act manly, angry, and like kicking ass to the villains and shit like that. That's a masculine trait that absolutely comes from movies and media. Even like not crying and stuff like that, being angry and making money and being successful, and that's how you get more cooch, that kind of thing. Again, that mentality, it's a toxic mentality that's promoted by the media, and by media I mean like movies and like even songs and like stuff like that. Does that mean the media is bad? Not necessarily. It's meant for entertainment purposes. It's meant for the effect and the stories and the fantasy, and uh, it's a gray area for me. Like I'll say that it's a gray area because at the same time, it is entertaining, it is supposed to be entertaining. These are the consequences of that people are manipulated into thinking that. Kabir Singh, I talked about, reacted to the people's opinion about it, and they said, a lot of them said that it's a movie. If it's people who are misinterpreting it and people who are getting influenced by it, it's people's fault. Yes, but if you know for a fact that if there are people who will be influenced by these kind of stuff, you can't just blame them and just like, make a better story, right? Instead of making it a happy ending and this is how it's supposed to be for them, these characters, instead of saying that, you can maybe make a story of like getting the hero to have consequences, some serious repercussions, put him in jail, right? Get him some what do you call it, some psychological analysis of that guy or the character, and he has some problems from his childhood trauma or some shit, and like you can do that because Marvel is doing that with many of its movies, and I love Marvel for that. Fuck Disney, but I love Marvel for that. And Pixar as well. Again, fuck Disney, Pixar is also good, it's doing that. So that's storytelling. The problem in media where the storytelling tells man to be manly, to have a happy ending. That's what movies show, at least to me, at least that's what I see. And for femininity, I want to make, I'm going to make the same argument for femininity, where there's manipulation even in the media for feminine traits. For guys, it's to be manly. For women, it's to be feminine, to be sexy, to be attractive, and to be the damsel in distress. That's what women are not taught, but that's how the influential media influences women to be. At least that's what I see. That's what I see. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying that is what it is, or that it's the consequences of that. Including, like, if we forget about this, like, women can be what they want, but the choices women make, it's important to realize that choices are their own and not being influenced. They are not being influenced by external factors to be who they are. Big example being makeup. Like, the makeup industry strives on women's low self-esteem. To be attractive, women will buy makeup, and it's expensive shit, and it's okay to do that. There's no wrong thing of but if it's affecting your like self-esteem. Similarly for guys, if it's affecting your self-image and self-esteem, that I'm not a muscular guy and I want to be muscular, and seeing all these people, like the abs thing, that's a true thing, that you visible abs doesn't really exist. They are very, very, very rare, and it takes a lot of time and a lot of effort to get those visible abs, like Tiger Shroff or Hrithik Roshan. And let me just show you. Like, look at this dude. Like, seriously. Okay? No. Like, these abs. Right? These abs, like, these, like, I know for a fact that there will be people and guys, that includes me. Like, I have also been like, oh my god, I want abs like that. But researching it and looking it up and shit, and I realized that these abs takes like hours and hours of exercise daily. And like, for example, Tiger Shroff, Tiger Shroff is able to do that and get those abs by working out for long time, because that's his job. If he was a fucking chartered accountant or some shit, he wouldn't have this body. Like, he wouldn't. Stop lying to yourself by saying that if only you worked out good enough and you will have this body. No, you won't. You just won't have that kind of body. Like, that doesn't mean you shouldn't exercise. Exercising is important, yes, but having those goals are also important. But having that low self-image about yourself, that you like, I want that, but I'm not able to get that, and I feel bad about it. For guys, that's a real thing. And it's just, the truth is, it's not like that at all. That it takes a lot of effort to do that, and it's not something everyone can do or everyone should do. Because if you work like 12 hours a day in a job, first of all, why? And just 8 hours is more than enough. But if you're working for 12 hours a day, you can't have any time left for exercising like that. But in the movies and media, like, these are the actors and these are the characters who get a lot of girls for having good body and just showing off and shit like that. Good for you. It's a character. It's just a movie. It's not real. But the consequences of that are people feel invalidated, not invalidated. People feel inferior to being a masculine. People have questions about the masculinity because they are not as built. And similarly for girls with the makeup industry and the skin industry, and like, pimples are pretty fucking normal. It's okay to have pimples. Everyone has them. Just because those actresses who spend thousands and thousands and thousands of rupees on different products and different surgeries and shit, doesn't mean you have to. Setting the beauty standards for women and men on the heightened level that it is in the media, like, it's people. They have the money, that's why they're doing it. You don't have to do it. It's not your job to do it, and it's not your job to idealize that either. But at the same time, that's what it is, right? The clothing industry, I'm wearing my sister's like shirt, t-shirt, whatever it is. I'm wearing this. Why does it matter? Why does it? If it's cheap, I'm gonna fucking wear it. She wears my t-shirts. Like, if it's cheap, why does it fucking matter? What kind of fashion industry? Like, it doesn't make any sense. With so expensive dresses, like, it just doesn't. To look beautiful, okay, you want to feel beautiful, you want to look beautiful, go ahead. But if it's affecting your mental health, and if it's affecting, like, if you don't do that, you are like, no, that's like, personalizing those external things to your own self is not a good thing. And that the industry strives on that. And as well as the perception we have about men and women, the way they are dressed, or the way they do their makeup, or whatever, like, whatever it may be, the perception of that, like, it is heavily influenced by this society and the media, not the society. Because if a woman is wearing like one piece, whatever you call it, and she's going on the streets, people are gonna catcall them, right? It's a wrong thing. But because men are manipulated for being that, looking at women wearing certain dress to be slutty, or whatever it may be, that whatever reasoning men might have, that's wrong. But that the conditioning that happens to men, that's because of the media, and that needs to be stopped. But two things: first of all, the media needs to acknowledge that this is wrong. Secondly, people growing up, parents, and like society itself, as that needs to normalize just people being who they are, and people letting other people be who they are. And even women, in the same argument, why would a woman wear the one piece dress? It's a choice. Absolutely, it's a choice. But why that dress? Because it's what women are supposed to wear. It's influenced by media, and women wear that dress, and like, it's both. It's not just one thing. It's a complicated thing, because at the end of the day, it's a choice. And at the end of the day, in this scenario, the girl can wear what she wants, and the guy shouldn't do that. Absolutely right. But these are the consequences of those actions in the media and all those things. And toxic femininity, about this lastly, I'm going to talk about this again. Toxic femininity, right, this year, it doesn't make any fucking sense. Because if you're saying that this Amber Heard is a toxic feminine woman, it's actually an illogical argument. And I don't know how one can make that argument. She is bad. You can say that. I don't know. I'm not following that thing, because it's not that important to me. But if you think that she is bad, yeah, then don't use these terms, because these terms are, first of all, not appropriate for these scenarios at all. They are very much contextual. Like, it's no. And Jada Pinkett and Will Smith, again, from what I know, it's a consensual open relationship, from what I know. So why the fuck do you care? Why you are like making the Will Smith victim here? If he's okay with it, good. If he's not okay with it, that's a different case. If he's not okay with it, that's a different case. But he seems to be okay with it. He seems to back her up every time. Why the fuck do people care? Just let them be. You are a toxic person to be that. Seriously, why? Okay, that's about it. Toxic femininity. That was. Ah.
Hmm.